The airlock hissed open. Captain Elric looked up from his console. The lights flickered once, then returned to normal. He expected a mechanic, maybe a junior officer, but instead, she walked in. She was tall, alien, beautiful, in a way that didn't feel real. Her skin shimmered with faint blue light. Her hair was silver, braided tightly behind her neck. Her eyes glowed gold, locked straight on him. She wore nothing. No armor, no clothing, not even shoes. She stood in his private quarters completely, naked without fear or shame. "I request full evaluation," she said, her voice calm, clear, and slightly accented. "Now, I will not ask again." Elric stood frozen. He had faced pirates, black hole storms, even diplomatic threats. But nothing had prepared him for this. "Excuse me?" he asked, stunned. "What evaluation?" She stepped forward, slow and proud. Her posture was perfect, her movements almost like a soldier's parade, disciplined, bold and deliberate. "I am from the Zharani Matrons," she said. "I am here for the ritual of mating evaluation. Your species has been marked as a potential partner race. I offer myself for testing." Elric blinked. "Testing? You're here too, mate." "No," she replied coldly. "I am here to evaluate if you are worthy to mate with us." She tilted her head slightly. "Full evaluation requires physical inspection, behavioral study, and emotional honesty. All must be completed in the next hour, or I will leave and report to my people that humanity is weak." Her expression didn't change. She wasn't flirting. She wasn't seducing. She was challenging him. Elric took a deep breath, trying to stay professional. "You do realize this violates several interspecies protocols," he said. She lifted one eyebrow. "My kind does not follow weak paper rules. We follow strength. Strength of mind, of truth, and of connection." She stepped closer. Now she was only a meter away. Elric could see the faint patterns on her glowing skin like bioluminescent tattoos. Her body was perfect. Every curve, every muscle, shaped by years of combat training and genetic design. She raised her chin. "Will you accept the ritual, Captain? Or shall I record your failure in our treaty log?" Elric opened his mouth, then stopped. Was this a trick? A test from her people? Or was it something worse? He tapped his comm. "Ship AI, confirm identity of guest." The voice replied, "Identity confirmed. Zharani Noble, Kirathel Matron class. Diplomatic status verified." Diplomatic? That meant she couldn't be refused easily. Elric looked into her golden eyes. There was no fear there.
Only
Expectation. "Need more information?" he said carefully. "What exactly does this evaluation involve?" Kirathel finally moved her arms. Slowly, she crossed them behind her back. Her chest lifted proudly, boldly. "You will observe my physical state, my body, untouched and prepared for this rite. You will test my reactions. You will ask what you fear to ask. You will allow me to do the same to you." That sounds invasive. "To my people, that is truth." She walked past him and Satantakud in the edge of his private bunk. "You have 1 hour, human. Begin your evaluation." Elric rubbed his forehead. His instincts screamed at him. This is dangerous. But another voice inside whispered, "This is important, maybe even historic." He stepped toward her slowly. "I'll start with a medical scan," he said. She nodded. "Acceptable." As he picked up the handheld scanner, his fingers trembled slightly. Not from fear, but from something else. This wasn't about attraction. It was about power and trust. As he moved the scanner over her glowing skin, she didn't blink. Her breathing stayed calm. Only her eyes moved, watching his every expression. "You seem perfectly healthy," he said, scanning her chest, shoulders, and neck. "I am bred for strength," she said. "Any recent injuries?" "I have no fear of pain." He paused. "And do you want this? This evaluation?" She looked at him, really looked and said, "I want to be seen. Not bought, not taken. Seen." The scanner beeped. It's all normal. Then something flickered. On the display, A small signal faint, almost hidden. Foreign device buried deep beneath her shoulder. "What's this?" She stiffened. "Just for a second." "Nothing," she said. But Elric wasn't convinced. The signal was encrypted. Looked like a tracker, maybe even a recording device. "Is someone watching us?" he asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she stood again. "Closer this time. 1 hour human," she repeated. "And you're already wasting time." Astra's Captain Elric stood still, the scanner still warm in his hand. The soft hum of the ship seemed louder than usual. He stared at the strange signal flashing. On his displayer tracker, possibly a recording unit deeply embedded beneath her skin. But what disturbed him more wasn't the signal, it was her reaction when he mentioned it. She didn't panic. She didn't ask questions. She just went silent. That kind of silence, it was the kind trained soldiers used. It meant she already knew. He lowered the scanner. "You said this was your choice," he said. "But someone implanted that device." "In you? Who? Why?" The alien woman Carathel tilted her head, eyes glowing faintly gold in the low lights of his quarters. "You ask questions outside the ritual. Are you human, or are you afraid?" Her words were sharp, cutting. She wasn't flirting. She wasn't playing. She was pushing him. He stepped forward, close enough to feel the strange warmth of her skin. She didn't back away. Her body was strong, defined, but still and calm. She held her posture with military control, her chin lifted, chest out, gaze unflinching. "You think this is just about scanning a body?" she said. "We test not the eyes, not the hands, we test the core. The weakness. You must touch what you fear to know." He frowned. "And if I fail, then I will leave, and my people will never return." She turned, walking to the center of the room, where the light above cast a soft glow across her bare form. With a graceful motion, she dropped to her knees and spread her arms wide, presenting herself not in submission, but in full, unguarded readiness. Elric swallowed hard. This was more than ceremony. It was vulnerability, challenge, trust. She wasn't seducing him. She was exposing herself as a weapon with no armor, was asking to be judged, and part of him respected that more than anything he'd seen in battle. He knelt across from her, still unsure if this was a diplomatic trap or something stranger. She leaned in slightly, eyes narrowed. "Touch my hand," she said quietly. He hesitated, then reached out. Her fingers wrapped around his. Her skin was warm and smooth, but beneath it, he could feel the faint vibration of internal energy, some alien pulse or shielding that danced. "Under the surface, you are scanning again," she said, lips curling ever so slightly. "You think like a machine, feel like a machine. No wonder your kind has no bondmates." He gave a slight smile. "We have relationships. You have routines," she said, eyes flashing. "Now I will touch you." She leaned forward and placed one hand against his chest, just above his heart. Her palm was soft, but her pressure was firm. She didn't blink. She was watching, listening. "You are afraid," she whispered. "Not of me, but of what you might feel." "I don't even know what you are," he said. "I am truth," she replied. The words hung heavy in the air. The room was quiet, the hum of the ship like a heartbeat behind them. Her hand didn't move. Neither did his. Then suddenly her body jerked slightly. Her pupils widened. She blinked and pulled her hand away. "What is it?" Elric asked. "My skin receptor just activated," she whispered. "Someone triggered the tracking device inside me." He stood immediately, crossing to the console and pulling up the scan log. "They're listening. Watching. Someone planted this in you to observe the ritual." "Not someone," she said, her voice lower now. "The council." She stood slowly, her confidence cracked for the first time. "They never intended me to return. This ritual was a setup. A way to test if humans could be broken, or if I would betray them." Elric's jaw clenched. "So they sent you naked. Alone to tempt a human commander and expected me to fail?" "Yes," she said. "And if you had touched me with hunger instead of care, they would have sent judgment, not alliance." His stomach turned. That's not diplomacy. That's cruelty, she nodded. It is how my kind survives. Pretend strength, but we are afraid. He took a step closer. And you. I was never afraid of you, she whispered. A silent alert lit up on the wall proximity warning. Chip cloaked. Just outside sensor range, Elric's blood ran cold. They're not waiting for the report, he said. They're here too. Erase the experiment. Kirithel stepped beside him, still fully exposed, still proud. Then it's time, she said softly, to see if humans are truly worth saving. And without waiting for permission, she reached for his hand again this time, not for testing, but for trust. Elric stared at the blinking red light on his console. Ship's AI had confirmed it twice. Now there was something out there, just beyond their sensors, hiding in the shadows of deep space. A cloaked ship, silent, still. Watching. He didn't move, not yet. His training told him to wait, to think. But his heartbeat was quick, his breathing tight. He wasn't afraid of the unknown. What chilled him was the purpose behind it. Kirithel stood silent, her bare figure lit softly by the room's glow. Her body still strong, still calm. But her voice had lost the edge of pride. It was softer now, touched with something he hadn't heard before. Regret. I was never meant to come back, she said, her voice like wind against steel. They needed someone disposable. He turned to her. Then why did you come? Why agree to this insane ritual? She looked down at her hands. Trained for war, built for command. But right now, they trembled just slightly. I wanted to matter, she said. Not as a weapon, not as a daughter of the Matrons. I wanted someone to look at me and see more than my bloodline. Elric stepped closer, still trying to understand what kind of society would send someone like her naked. Unarmed and unprotected as bait. Her people claimed it was tradition. But to him, it smelled like cruelty. You said you were a warrior, he said carefully. This doesn't feel like a warrior's mission. It wasn't, she said bitterly. I was given a choice. Fight in the breeding trials, or take the human evaluation. He blinked. Breeding trials. She nodded once. It's what they do to females who fail in rank. If we can't lead armies, we're given to those who can. Elric felt sick. And they told you this evaluation was... What? An escape? She laughed, but it sounded hollow. They told me it was a joke, that humans wouldn't last 5 minutes before losing control. I was supposed to prove your species unworthy. Then they'd laugh. Then they'd bring me home shamed. Ink! Stared at her, the pieces starting to connect. And if I passed your test, he asked. If I stayed calm, professional, if I saw you as more than just a body, then they'd have to accept the treaty, she whispered, and I would have power again. She turned to him, and in that moment, she wasn't proud. She wasn't angry. She was vulnerable. You were my gamble, Elric, and now there. Here to collect the outcome. The cum screen flickered again. A message in an unknown alien dialect ran across the feed. The AI translated quickly, released the subject. Power down. Surrender. Elric didn't answer. He stepped to his locker, pulled out a compact black case, and opened it. Inside was a standard-issue plasma pistol and a thin silver datapad. He handed her the datapad. What's this? She asked. Proof, he said, of what they did to you. The tracker in your shoulder, the altered DNA markers, the suppression tech hidden in your nervous system. I copied it all during the scan. Kirithel stared at the pad. Her hands tightened around it. They modified me, she whispered, to make sure I would fail. They weakened me. No, Elric said firmly. They feared what you might become if you succeeded. She looked up at him slowly. Why are you helping me? Because, he said, you came here alone. You stood in front of a stranger, fully exposed, not to tempt me, but to trust me. You deserve more than to be discarded. She closed, her eyes for a moment. Then, without warning, the ship shook. A sudden vibration passed through the floor, followed by a high-pitched pulse. Elric grabbed a rail to steady himself. They're charging weapons, he said. I don't think they're here to talk. Kirithel didn't flinch. She stepped forward, past him, toward the bridge door. If they mean to kill me, she said, then they'll see me standing. Elric moved beside her. You're not standing alone. No. Her eyes searched his face, and for the first time, the steel in her gaze softened. She nodded once. Then together, they walked to the control deck. As they entered, the main screen showed. The cloaked ship now slowly decloaking. Its shape was sharp, aggressive, like a predator revealing its teeth. I'll try to raise shields, Elric said, tapping at the controls. But we're outgunned. I've fought in worse odds, Kirithel muttered, but never with an ally. She reached for a side panel and pulled open a weapons locker. Shit. She bypassed the scanner and selected a pair of alien-designed gauntlets. Clearly not human-made? You stored your own weapons on my ship? He asked, startled. She gave a small smile. I always planned for betrayal. Suddenly the enemy ship opened a communication feed. A cold voice filled the room. Return the subject. She's property of the Matron Council. This is your only warning. Elric didn't look away. She's not property. He stepped between the screen and Kirithel and said just 2 words. Into the mic she's crew. As the enemy ship cut the feed, Kirithel looked at him with wide eyes. You just declared war, she whispered. He nodded, and she, for the first time, smiled not with pride, not with power, but with something. Deeper. You passed, she said. To hell with passing, Elric said, gripping the controls. Let's make sure we survive. Asterisk, the sky beyond the viewport burned bright for a moment, then vanished into the cold darkness of deep space again. Elric kept one hand on the controls, the other hovering near the manual weapon override. Hush. His ship, Vigilant Hope, was fast, but not made for war. It was a patrol vessel, lightly armed and lightly shielded. The enemy ship now facing them, however, was built like a fortress-wide wings, pulse cannons. A spiked hull designed to intimidate. He had just told them no. He had. Just called her crew. And now, both of them would have to live or die with that choice. Beside him, Kirithel stood silent. Her eyes never left the screen. She had pulled her long silver hair into a tight braid, exposing the glowing lines of her neck and collarbone. Her bare body showed no signs of weakness, though her breathing had changed slower. Deeper, like a warrior preparing for the final charge. You know this ship can't take them in a fight, Elric said, trying to remain calm. Kirithel nodded. Once. Yes. Then tell me something useful. Weak points. Protocols. What do I need to know? She glanced at him. Ship isn't just here for me, it's a cleansing unit. His brow furrowed. Cleansing. They've done this before. Send a target. Wait for contact. If the species resists or bonds with the target, burn the evidence. Clean the records, pretend it never happened. She turned to him fully. They will not stop until this ship is gone. Elric's knuckles turned white on the console. I should have shut that airlock, he muttered. She smiled faintly, but then you wouldn't have passed. He gave her a side glance, still not sure what test I passed. Didn't touch me like a beast. You touched me like a being. Suddenly, the lights flickered again. The ship's AI spoke. Incoming pulse wave. Impact in 12 seconds. Brace, Elric shouted. The blast hit them hard. The Vigilant Hope rolled to the side, systems whining as pressure shifted through the hull. Sparks burst from a panel behind them. Kirithel grunted but held steady. Her bare feet planted wide. Shields down to 40%, she said, scanning the readouts. They're testing your limits. I'll find them soon, Elric said, tapping controls rapidly. Once we show them we don't have any, he flicked on auxiliary thrusters and spun the ship around fast, sharp toward the enemy. It wasn't a charge. It was a bluff. Kirithel's eyebrows lifted. You plan to ram them? No, I plan to confuse them, the enemy vessel responded, shifting to defense mode. That gave Elric just enough time to reroute power to comms. Ship AI encrypt, and send all Zharani medical data logs to Central Human Command. Tag as threat level diplomatic breach. Confirmed, the AI replied. Transmitting now. Kirithel looked at him in shock. You just sent my DNA across your systems. You said you wanted to be seen, Elric replied. They'll respond with denial or war. Then let them, he said. Her golden eyes stared at him for a long moment. No human has ever defended me like this, she whispered. Maybe no one ever saw you as real, he said, but I do. Suddenly, a sharp noise filled the air. No, not from the console, but from her. Kirithel cried out, clutching her side. Elric. Caught her before she hit the floor. What is it? The implant, she gasped. It's activating again. He looked at the monitor. Her vitals were spiking. The foreign object under her skin was glowing now, pulsing dangerously. They're using it to shut you down, Elric said. Like a remote kill switch. I can't. Move, she said, her voice growing weaker. Without hesitation, he lifted her gently and carried her to the med bay. The lights dimmed as emergency mode kicked in. The implant's pulses were destabilizing her nervous system. She was shaking in his arms, yet still trying to breathe through the pain. Ship AI. Elric shouted, Prepare surgical extraction. I'm removing the implant manually. Warning. The AI responded. Procedure carries 78% risk of fatality without alien anatomy protocol. Override. Confirmed. He laid her on the biobed, his hands already wet with sweat. Tools hovered into place. Her glowing skin dimmed as her energy faded. I won't let them control you, he whispered. She looked up at him, pain in her eyes. Even if I die. Don't let them win. No one dies today, Elric said. And with that, he cut into the glowing skin of her shoulder, ignoring the alarms, ignoring the blood only focused on the small, deadly chip pulsing inside her. One wrong move, and she would be gone. But he moved slowly, carefully. And then there it was, a tiny black shard. Humming with alien energy, he pulled it free. The lights around them flickered once, then settled. Her body went limp, but she was breathing. He collapsed beside her, covered in blood, chest heaving. After a few moments, she opened her eyes again. You passed again, she whispered. He gave a tired smile. I'm getting good at your tests. No, she said softly. You're just human. Behind them, the alarm sounded again. Enemy vessel charging weapons. Countdown 45 seconds. Elric stood, eyes narrowing. He wasn't just fighting for her now. He was fighting for something bigger. And as Kirithel sat up slowly, her wounds glowing but healing, he knew they weren't alone anymore. Asterisk. The medbay lights flickered once, then steadied. The implant lay cold and black in Elric's palm, no longer pulsing. A moment ago it had been trying to kill her. Now it was just a shard of lifeless metal. Kirithel sat up slowly, wrapped in a silver thermal blanket. Her skin, once glowing with steady bioluminescence, now dimmed and flickered weakly, but she was awake, alive, and staring at the device Elric had pulled from her body. That, she said quietly, was supposed to activate only if I betrayed them. Elric raised his eyes. They triggered it when you stood beside me. You didn't betray them, they betrayed you. She nodded slowly, her jaw clenched, the pain still fresh in her eyes. My clan believed loyalty was everything. But to them, I was just a test subject, a body to be controlled. He placed the implant into a containment tube. Fire. Free Kirithel looked at him with something deeper than gratitude. It wasn't just thankfulness. It was belief. She believed him now truly, that he wasn't acting on orders. He had chosen her, but the danger wasn't over. The screen on. The wall blinked red. The cloaked Zharani warship was still hovering just outside weapon range. They had fired a warning shot. The next would be real. We need to talk, Elric said. She followed him to the command deck, slow but steady. Her body still ached, but her eyes had hardened again. This time, not out of pride. Out of clarity. Your people modified you. Elric began. I found the genetic tags during the scan. That tracker was part of a larger program. She looked confused. Program. He tapped the console, pulling up the medical file again. You weren't just sent to fail. They tampered with your mind, Kirithel. Neurosuppression, emotional dampening. Someone tried to erase your fear and your empathy. She stared. At the screen, frozen. I've seen this before, Elric said. Back on Earth. Bioweapons Division. Failed attempts to create soldiers who didn't question orders. Every subject either died or broke down. Kirithel's voice was low. So I was never supposed to feel. No, Elric said. And yet, you did. You're feeling now. That means their experiment failed. You won. She stepped away from the console and pressed her hands to the glass of the main viewport. Outside, the enemy ship floated in silence. Black as a shadow, watching, waiting. They see me as broken, she whispered, and broken things get discarded. Elric stood beside her. Then let's show them what broken can do. He activated a comlink. This is Captain Elric of the Vigilant Hope. You violated galactic neutrality by placing unauthorized implants in a diplomatic subject. You have 10 seconds to explain yourselves or face transmission to all allied governments. The answer came fast. A voice, cold and sharp, filled the bridge. Human, you have interfered in matters beyond your reach. That subject belongs to the Matron Council. She is not recognized as a citizen. She is a failed unit. Kirithel stepped forward. I am not a unit, she said, her voice rising. I am Zharani by blood, and I have survived your poison, your tests, and your silence. Elric switched the feed to record. Every word was being sent to human command, and now, cross open frequencies. I invoke the right of free flame, she said. The voice on the other end went still. You can't. The voice said, you are unranked. Then I reclaim my rank, she snapped. As blood of the flame-caller Velnari, I challenge the council. I reject my status as test subject. I stand beside this human as equal. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Then the enemy ship began to move. They're going to fire, Elric muttered. Kirithel turned to him. Let them. The ship shook to pulse bolts, struck their shield. Sparks burst from the rear panel. Systems flashed yellow. But they were still alive. Elric tapped the emergency beacon. A distant voice replied. This is Vanguard Solace, Earth. Command carrier. We received your distress signal and full transmission logs. Weapons hot, engaging hostile ship now. Through the viewport, a massive Earth warship came into view, uncloaking with a thunderous burst of light. Its hull shimmered with shield energy, and cannons rotated into position. The Zharani ship immediately began to retreat. Kirithel watched silently as the ship that had come to erase her now turned tail and ran. You're safe, Elric said. She turned to him, her voice trembling. No, I'm not safe, he frowned. What do you mean? I've made enemies, she said. Real ones, and not just in space. If I return home, they'll kill me. Quietly, in shame, Elric stepped forward, then don't go back. Where would I go? He looked at her, his eyes steady. Here, with us, with me. She stared at him naked, scarred, trembling, and whispered, They used my body as a test. But you saw past that. I saw you, he said. She reached out and touched his chest again, like the first time. Only now her fingers didn't test him. They trusted him. For the first time since stepping aboard his ship, she lowered her head not in shame, but in rest, and Elric knew. This war wasn't just between ships. It was a war for identity, freedom, and something even deeper, a chance to belong. The corridors of Vigilant Hope were quiet now. Elric walked slowly down the dim hallway, his steps echoing faintly. Emergency. Lights still blinked in places, small reminders of the fight they'd just survived. The Earth warship Vanguard Solace now stood watch nearby, silent protector, hanging in the void. But Elric's mind wasn't on the fleet, it was on her. He reached the guest quarters and paused outside the sealed door. Inside, Kirithel rested. No longer a test subject, it's no longer a pawn. He tapped the panel. The door slid open. She was sitting on the bed, draped in a loose medical robe that shimmered faintly against her glowing skin. Her legs were crossed, her silver hair undone and flowing over her shoulders. Her golden eyes locked on him the moment he entered. You didn't have to come, she said. I didn't want to wait, he replied quietly. Are you in pain? She shook her head. The implant is gone, but the silence inside me is new. My mind, it feels louder. Thoughts I never heard before are speaking again. That's good, he said. You're healing. Kirithel didn't smile. You say that like it's easy. I don't even know who I am without the programming. He stepped closer. Then figure it out. One choice at a time. She looked down at her hands, so strong yet shaking slightly. I'm afraid, she whispered. Not of death, not of war, but of what happens now. No title, no orders, just me. Elric sat down beside her, close but not touching. You don't have to be anything but yourself, he said. And for the record, I like who you are when no one's controlling you. She turned toward him slowly, unsure. You looked at me differently, she said. Back then, in the medbay, even when I was weak, bloody, you didn't turn away. You were never weak, he said. You were just alone. Silence settled between them. The soft hum of the ship vibrated beneath the floor. Outside, stars drifted past like whispers. Kirithel reached out, hesitant at first. Then her fingers rested gently on his hand. I don't know what this is, she said softly, but I don't want it to be a test. It's not, Elric said, voice steady. She moved closer, and her voice lowered, a breath above a whisper. I was trained to offer myself, not to want someone. Not like this. Her eyes searched his face. I've never done this by choice, she said. Not for a mission, not for a contract. Just because I wanted to. Elric looked into her eyes, and something deep stirred in his chest. She wasn't asking for permission. She was asking for something real. He reached up and touched her cheek soft, warm and glowing faintly beneath his fingers. You're not an assignment, he said, and I'm not here to control you. Her body moved without fear now. Her hands traced the edge of his collar, slow, unsure, but open. The tension between them grew out, just physical but something heavier. A current of trust, of truth, building slowly with every breath. And then, without another word, she kissed him. It wasn't a warrior's kiss. It wasn't practiced, perfect, or planned. It was raw, honest, full of hesitation and hope. Their bodies leaned into each other naturally, her warmth against his, her fingers curling against his chest. But even in that closeness, there was something. Fragile, like both of them were learning how to be real for the first time. She pulled back just enough to speak. Her forehead rested against his. You're not afraid of me? She asked. No, he whispered, even though I could break you. Maybe, he said with a small smile. But I don't think you want to anymore, she smiled, truly smiled for the first time. It changed her whole face, made her softer, brighter. I don't, she said. They stayed that way, silent in each other's arms for long minutes. But peace, on a ship like vigilant hope, never lasted. A sudden knock echoed at the door. Ric stood quickly, and Kirithel rose beside him, alert again. The door slid open, revealing his junior officer, eyes wide. Captain, she said, breathless. Command just flagged your transmission. There's movement. Zharani fleets are shifting. Elric's face hardened. Where? All across the border. But that's not the part that matters. She handed him a datapad. Kirithel looked over his shoulder. It was her image. A bounty notice. Council sealed, high dash priority. The label read, Traitor, recovered dead or alive. Kirithel's face remained calm, but her hand tightened on Elric's arm. They're not done with me, she said. Elric nodded, already calculating in his head. Then we don't let them take you. But they'll come, she said. He looked at her with sharp certainty. Let them.